That's what I call plausible deniability makeup. Usually I, like to do the real dark raccoon circles. But tonight I'm going with plausible deniability, which basically means, like, unless you're super up close, you can't really tell, like, is that guy wearing makeup or is he not? You know what I mean? Gives me a little wiggle room. My friend Jay sends me. Well, he's a friend through the channel. I don't know him in real life, but I feel like I do. If he lived close to me, we'd definitely hang out. But he sends me these little WebMDs. He has this ability to catch, like, entities in light, in moving light. And he'll send me stuff, like he'll send me pictures and clips and stuff. Sometimes I can see them, sometimes I can't. But it ties into the, before I even started talking to him and exchanging information with him, I was sort of putting together the idea that entities can travel through electricity. Anything, or perhaps anything with energy, but electricity in specific. Because while there's always been these entities here, they seem to... Ooh, drop my cigarette. 10-minute rule. They seem to have multiplied over the years, and along with them, being more of them, things have gotten a lot worse, like as far as violence and crazy behavior. There's some other things that don't help, things that have been added to the mix. But, and the things that, and there's a lot of weirdness that happen around, like, power plants. For one, I don't have even one example right now, of course, because I didn't think about it until right now. But yeah, with the proliferation of more advanced electricity moving out into more areas, that can bring them to more places, and at least allow them movement between these places. Because you think, how would they be out in the ether? What's moving them around? What's allowing them to travel and take form? Well, let me rephrase that. They don't actually take form, but to take form in their frequency within our 3D area. Because they're not interdimensional as much as they are interfrequency. Like, they're on a frequency that, like, is in the same space we occupy, but it's not a frequency that we can perceive with our small band of frequency that we can see in the suit, in the body suit, in the human suit. I remember years ago, I was with a friend of mine, and we were walking home from the record store. We lived in a rural type area, suburban kind of thing, and we were walking up to a record store, and I remember what I bought. I got Black Sabbath, 7th Star, and he got Somewhere in Time by Maiden on vinyl. I already had it on cassette. This is back in the day when I just have cassettes. And we're walking home to his house, and where he lived, behind his housing division, was a cut through that had those giant transponders, like those giant electric towers, that you see running, crisscrossing through America, and it was through there. It was going through there. It was going through behind his neighborhood, and it went from where the record store was, pretty much like the area where the record store was, and it ran all the way to where his house was, to where he lived, to the neighborhood. So we're like, shit, if we just follow these, are they called transponders? I know no one's going to answer me. Those big tower things that move the electrical cables. But so we were like, if we follow these things, right, we can get to his house without having to be on the road. So we wouldn't have to deal with traffic coming by. Because there were cars zooming around in these suburban back roads from the shopping area we were at to his house. You know, so it's like we weren't afraid of getting hit or anything, but if you can get away from it, why not, you know? So we jumped a little wall. There's like a little stone wall there. Up in our area where I used to live, there's all these very old stone walls that run through the town. And they told us it had to do with a castle that was in our town too, in our area, called Searle's Castle. And apparently, this guy was an eccentric. So he built all these stone walls in town with these guard towers, and he had a giant castle. That's a whole nother story. Of course, the castle burned down, right? A couple times. It was ruins, and we used to go hang out there as kids, and then it got a major fire in the 80s, and it was still a little bit of ruins left. We used to go there, but at any rate, that's a whole nother story. But so they had these little stone walls that ran through the town. So we went over the stone wall. It was about waist high, and into a field, and we were walking toward where the trail is cut through the woods, where these giant towers ran the cables. So I mean, it was a back road in like a I don't know, rural kind of area. So there's not a lot of people around except for the cars. So the cars are, you know, there, but there's no people around. So we get over there and we start following the trail underneath the electric cable transponder things. And we're talking about, like, isn't it weird, like, nobody comes back here? Like, no one ever comes to this area? And thinking of it now, it's almost like if you're playing, like, an open world game and there's like, parts you can't get to or that nobody goes to. And if you tried to, you couldn't get there. It felt like one of those. Because you could see them from the road, but, you know, we were never... no one ever walking there. So we're walking along. I might have to put the phone down here because we're going to a line. I'd like to put this people's faces. Hang on a second. Hang on a second. What am I talking about? All right, so we get on this trail. And we weren't walking very long. And ahead of us, I guess it would be like the equivalent of maybe 2 city blocks, like blocks here, you know. So this guy comes walking out from the road, like the same way kind of we came on, and I couldn't make out what he was wearing. He looked like maybe he had a suit on. It was all completely black. We couldn't make out his face. It was just like a shape. It was like one block, like this block where I am right now, where this light is, maybe to that corner down there where that car is coming out. And he stepped out, and he just stands there and looks at us, and he points to the road. And we're like, what the fuck's this guy doing, you know? So we keep walking towards him, and he motions to the road again, like forcefully. Like he does one of these, like that, you know, like pointing to the road. He's like, oh, he wants us off this. So like, all right, okay, you know, no problem. We thought maybe it was just like I don't know, some city person or someone that lived there or worked there. You know, we didn't know. We didn't think it was like anything weird until later. We were just like, oh, this guy's maybe he's a cop. We didn't know. We were like 15 or 16 or something, maybe younger, because we weren't driving. We were walking to this record store. So we get back on the road, right? We go back over to the wall, climb back over to the road, and we start walking up towards where he was. We're waiting for him to step out into the street and like give us some kind of, you know, you shouldn't be back there because, I don't know, some adult reason, you know. But he never comes out. So we keep walking toward where he was. And when we get to where he would have been, he's not there. No sign of anybody. It was almost like he was, you know, my friend said it was almost like he was film projected or something, or like it was maybe it wasn't a real guy, maybe it was a projection, but I don't know, he was interacting with us kind of, like when we didn't get right back on the road. He got a little bit more forceful with his pointing. It's fucking weird. Kind of forgot about it, but years later I think about that. And I just think about how nobody walks those kind of trails. I don't know anyone. I mean, growing up, I grew up in the burbs. You know, we had a lot of stuff there. We would always go off into the woods and walk into these places and try to find stuff. We're going to graveyards. We had that castle I was mentioning, the Searles Castle. But no one would ever follow the power lines. I don't know if it's good to necessarily be walking under them, but I don't know what the deal is with that land. You know, we assumed that it was like private property or something, but the fucking dude just disappeared. He wasn't there. And I thought about it years later when I started to try to make this connection about the demonic entities and electricity. I gotta run that by Jay actually, because he might, I should tell him that story. Well, if he watches this and he just heard it. It's something I didn't think much of at the time, but thinking about it now, maybe he was protecting that area, not because of the land per se, not because the land was private property, but to maybe keep us away from the electricity things. I don't know. Weird one. And then he fucking vanished. And when we saw him, we couldn't really, I mean, I don't think we talked about it until later as far as what he looked like. I was like, yeah, you know, did you see him? He's like, no, I couldn't see his, I don't know if he was white or black, or he just, he was a dark shape. But it definitely looked like a man. It didn't look like some kind of weird ghost or, you know, anything like that. And he was dressed all in black, so to us that meant like cop or security guard or something, you know. I gotta give this guy money. Hang on. And so we weren't really freaked out by it, and it's only years later, thinking about it now, that it's kind of strange, you know. And then I think about how it's part of the electricity. Have a good night, man. And I don't know. I'm still putting that whole electricity thing together. What Jay points out is they tend to travel in any kind of light. Like he can get sunlight that reflects off stuff in his backyard, and he'll get video of what look like birds or people. It isn't like the blackbird thing. He did it. He was seeing the blackbirds, but those are kind of around me a lot later in photos. These aren't things, none of this stuff are things you see when it's happening. It's all stuff that you have to see with photography, as a lot of entities are. They're not you can't pick them up with the naked eye. I think I've linked it a couple times, but I'm going to link it again because it's worth seeing again. that the footage of the guy on the train that picked up the two demons. He was filming, and I'll drop it below. It's on my friend Roger from KC's site. He had it on his site, and I'll just link his video. What is it? The guy was on a bus, and he was filming a homeless guy because the homeless guy was kind of spurging out. He's like moving weird and doing weird stuff, so he was just filming him. And later, when you looked at it, you see that there's two beings around him. And one looks like he's sitting beside him, looking out the window, and there's one behind him, but he's moving in a way that would be impossible. It's like he's shadowing him. He's moving exactly as it's fucking bizarre. Well, just watch it. It's crazy. What I'm trying to make a point of is that these things are picked up in film and photography, and you can see them later. You know, you don't really see it with the naked eye. The only way they can interact with you is if they get inside like a person. You know, a lot of times you'll see, like, especially here, you see it a lot, like homeless people walking down the street screaming. And a lot of times, or I would say almost all the time, it's not a mental illness, it's a spiritual illness. Yeah, it's strange stuff. That was on my mind for some reason. I don't know why. I had a bigger point I wanted to tie it into, but I guess it's a swing and a miss sometimes. You know, I get these ideas set up in my head, and then I get out here and I start moving, and the situational awareness radar goes on, and all the levels of security go on. And I start thinking about my environment and stuff like that, and I just forget. But yeah, I'm going to keep looking at that relationship between their movement and energy. It's very, very schizo, of course, but I mean, you know, that's where the fun stuff is. Don't blame the teacher, blame the school.